Hey everyone, welcome back to KU Sports Extra here at KUsports.com. It is a new year, 2015 on your calendar.
It's a new year everywhere, but that's okay. Go ahead.
No, just here. It's a new year at KUsportsExtra.com. 2015 on your calendar. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen. Tom Keegan, welcome back. Hey,
thanks.
New Year's resolutions, whether that's for the show or for KU or for yourself or anything. This is like the 2-week window where people talk about it. It's really important. And then everybody just forgets they even brought it up and moves on with their lives as they were. So what about you?
I'm going to join a gym. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. It wouldn't feel like a new year if I didn't do both of those.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic. We'll keep tabs on that.
Okay.
I think you got a shot at it. There has been some talk of a competition with a couple of people around here. So maybe,
well, one
maybe
week in, I'm 1 pound down. So I'm on my way to a 52-pound weight loss.
And that would exceed your goal. Just showing off once again. Incredible stuff. All right, well, we took a couple of weeks off for the holidays. It was just kind of a mix of things. KU didn't play a ton during the break, but we were both in and out as well. We're going to come back with a vengeance today. We're going to throw a couple new things at you, but we're going to start with good news, bad news like we always do. And the good news this week is David Beatty, KU's new football coach, finally has a coaching staff. It's not completely full, and there are a couple names and positions that still need to be filled. But, boy, we've started hearing some names finally, and there's some good names. What stood out to you? I mean, as far as the most impressive hire or the one you like the most, or maybe even the one you're just most intrigued by? I
just think the thread that goes through that these are guys with experience with the air raid offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a good thing because KU's are always changing coaches and changes assistants, and there's no continuity. That's at least the beginning of a continuity that at least the coaching staff will know the offense.
Sure. Rob Likens, coming from Cal, is the offensive coordinator. He's bringing his O-line coach from there. Zach Yenser. Janae Jackson, who's been at KU before, is the strength coach. Kevin Kane, who played at KU and has had a good run at Wisconsin. And Northern Illinois is coming back to coach linebackers. Calvin Thibodeau, coaching the D-line. He was a defensive end at Oklahoma. Sounds like a good idea, right?
Well, I'd have him recruiting Oklahoma.
There you go.
Which KU hasn't had for a while.
Yeah, Clint Kubiak, a young gun, 27 years old, son of Gary Kubiak. He's coming to coach the wide receivers. That might be about all we know right now. Am I leaving anyone out? I can't remember. Gene Weir's coming. We know that. But anyway, the staff's filling up very nicely. I think the thing that's a common theme, and I agree with you, the air raid thing is very important, but the other common theme is energetic guys, fairly young guys, all guys that match that personality and that image that David Beatty has and the same image that Clint Bowen has. So that's what this staff, this program is going to be all about, and these guys can all fill right in and take the reins and do that themselves. So I think that can only help.
Yeah, I mean, Beatty is definitely an energetic guy, and you want other guys with energy because Beatty's going to be working long hours. So you don't want the assistants resenting working long hours right along with them. You want them buying in and knowing that that's what it takes.
And they all seem to understand this thing's not going to be easy.
It's going to be really hard as any job in America right now. And frankly, I don't see them winning a game next year as it stands right now. That's how badly this roster has been damaged, with guys who just didn't cut it, guys who were recruited by Turner Gill. Charlie Weiss kicked them all out, then replaced them, and none of those guys, I'm not saying none of those guys, most of those guys didn't pan out. A lot of them never even got here. It's disgraceful that they're going to go into next season. By then, they'll probably be down to something like maybe even 45 players who came here as scholarship players.
Crazy.
And you can't, plus the 25 that he'll recruit this year, but some of those you would think would redshirt. It's crazy, though.
Yeah, and some of those guys that did pan out are already gone, too. So it's a mess. There's no doubt about it. But that leads to the bad news. One of those guys that is leaving, who do we got?
Bad news is Nigel King has decided to put his name on the list for the NFL draft. He's one of 10 so far, one of 10 early entrants as a wide receiver. And he ranks 10th statistically, and he ranks 10th with a 40-time listed on NFL Draft Countdown.com with a 40 time of 4.6. The other 9 have better 40 times.
Yeah, that's bad news. I don't hate the decision just because I do think as bad a shape as this program is in and everything, it wasn't a guarantee that Nigel was going to come back and have a great year and really help himself. But I don't think that he's necessarily helped himself by leaving early either, especially when you look at that list, because that doesn't even take into account the seniors and the guys that are already better in that capacity.
Yeah, it doesn't take into account that at all. And, it comes down to this. Does he project to have good statistics next year? No, because the offensive line projects scary bad or thin. And the quarterback play, Michael Cummings can throw. He had good chemistry with Nigel King, but will he be protected? But, if Nigel King is not creating a buzz this year, you would think he'd want to work on his speed and try to create a louder buzz next year. And it comes down to this, basically. Do you want to play football, or do you want to get on with your life and find out right away whether you can make a career out of this? If you really, really love football, I think the play is to stay and play another year and try to improve your stock.
Definitely. So it remains to be seen whether it's bad news for Nigel, leaning that way probably.
Really bad news for Kansas.
But really bad news for Kansas for sure. Well, let's move into a new one for you. We're going to go with statistically speaking. It's a new idea that Tom Keegan came up with. I'm not going to ask when or where or how, but I like it. So we're going to just jump right into it. Every week we'll come up with one player. Either Tom will come up with one or I will, and we'll throw a name out, and then he or I will give you a good stat and a bad stat associated with that guy. It's Tom's idea, so I'm going to throw the first player out, put him on the spot, see what he can do. Brannen Greene, KU basketball sophomore. Good stat, bad stat.
Okay. First I'll start with he has the exact same number of missed free throws, which is your good stat,
Okay.
and steals, which is your bad stat.
Wow. See how he did that? Kind of intertwined them. Guy's a wizard.
And that number isn't a number at all.
Wow.
Did you like the little British?
At all, right.
Yeah.
Right.
The apostrophe?
God save the Queen and all that, right?
For that number is 0, ladies and gentlemen.
0.
0 missed free throws. All of them swishes. Many of them in the final minutes of the game. 0 steals. It's hard to play this many games and not have
14
a
games,
steal.
right? Yeah. So the
By
guy,
accident, you should turn around and the ball's coming at you.
well, he loves scoring. He
Yes.
loves points. He loves to be the guy that says, "Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball."
Foul me.
Right. And he doesn't love defense. We already knew that.
And he's physically not real gifted defensively.
Right. I'll tell you what, though. He played 29 minutes, I think, at Baylor in that big
Terrific.
road win. He worked harder defensively than I'd seen him work in his entire KU career so far. And that was because they had to have him out there. And it still looks a little awkward. The body just doesn't look like it should be playing defense. But he did dig in. He did work hard, and you got to give him credit for that. And then, of course, 2 big free throws at the end, both swishes, 0 misses, 17 for 17 this year. Somebody said on Twitter that it's 21 in a row dating back to the end of last year.
Someone with too much time on their hands.
I kind of just went thumbs up to that person. But impressive, no doubt. So, Brannen Greene, your first statistically speaking specimen. Let's move on to prediction time. We're not going to go one game at a time necessarily. If it's a big game, we'll do one game. But it's not like football. They play multiple games. So KU's got a 1-0 record in Big 12 play. They've got a home game Saturday against Texas Tech and a home game Tuesday against Oklahoma State. Let's predict 2-0 in those games. Is that pretty easy to guess right now? Do you think one will be closer than the other? What do you see as far as them trying to get to 3-0?
Well, I think Oklahoma State's a little bit underrated.
Yeah.
They have 2 really good players in Forte and Nash, but they also have some size, and so they're not a bad team. Will they beat Kansas in Lawrence? My prediction there would be no, so I'm going to say a 2-0 record for Kansas, with the tougher win being Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Oklahoma State went up to Iowa State and gave them all they could handle the other night. So I could see them competing for sure. But KU's going to be really tough at home. They just play at such a different level. And I think the Big 12 season is something where even at home, their home court advantage goes to a new height. The fans bring it more because they're protecting that streak, right? So I think 2-0. It wouldn't surprise me if both of them were pretty convincing victories. Let's talk about a Jayhawk who might jump out, a little bit of a primetime pick. Who do you think might have a couple of games here in a row where he looks good or maybe sets himself above the rest, knowing that at Baylor everybody kind of stepped up. Bill Self called it a total team win, and it really was.
Yeah, it was, because everyone played well at the end, and everyone played pretty poorly
at the
before
beginning.
that.
Yeah,
just about everyone.
Points in the first half. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, it reminded me of TCU a little bit, but not that bad. These games that I skip and send someone else, they just can't play the same.
That's right. Yeah, we weren't at that TCU game, were you?
No, I wasn't, but I don't want to say that I'm the reason.
No, you would never do that.
No, I wouldn't do it. Here's one I'll throw out there, and we don't even know if he'll play, but Devonte Graham, because if Devonte Graham is playing, he's helping. He could play Saturday.
Great point. He could. Very, very possible. I think he plays either Saturday or Tuesday. And probably not a ton of minutes. He's still got some work to do to come back and to get his feet under him and all that stuff. But you're right. If he can play 5, 6, 7 minutes, that's more rest than Frank Mason's been getting.
Or 10, 12, 13 minutes.
Like 12? Oh, you already said that. We love numbers here at KU Sports Extra. So Devonte Graham?
Devonte Graham.
I like it. It'll be very fun to see how he comes back and how quickly he gets back to where he was, which was pretty promising before.
Yeah, I think he's a real smart player and a good player.
Yeah, you've liked him since the summer. You loved him when you first talked to him.
Yeah, he's a nice kid and a real good interview.
Definitely. I'm going to go with Oubre. I think Kelly Oubre has a chance to really match up well with both of these teams. I think that defensive play he made at the end of that Baylor game, deflecting that ball off of Kenny Cherry and stealing a possession for Kansas, really was the biggest play of the game, I think. But he was 1 for 7 as an offensive player in that game. And afterwards, I spoke with him, and really even just watching him, you could see that he didn't care about being 1 for 7 and 1 for 5 from downtown.
He made big contributions.
He did, and I think he'll take that confidence and that momentum from the defense he played and bring it back to his offense, especially at Allen Fieldhouse.
Why didn't Baylor call a timeout there when they're having trouble inbounding the ball?
Too. Yeah, it's very strange.
Kansas does that. Either self calls it or the player inbounding the ball calls.
Well, quickly, too. They almost never get to the 4 seconds on that count. If it's not
too
there
late,
3,
I think. It's too late to call it once you get to 4, I think.
Yeah.
I think you have to call it by 3.
Sure. So, yeah.
3.9.
It seems like pretty quick, that comes, and it would have been a good move. I bet they're wondering that today, tomorrow, next week.
They'll probably had a little help in wondering that. I'm sure someone put that
on a message board somewhere.
Maybe.
All right, well, let's finish it off with the old favorite, the most obnoxious man in sports. Go ahead, Tom Keegan. Give us someone obnoxious to kick off 2015.
Well, this is a good one because it's such a bad one. Jim Mora Jr. at the handshake decides to use profane language. Didn't even use, or
I think, yeah.
What the heck was that? Maybe it wasn't heck, but it was a play. The Kansas State player was not trying to injure anybody. It's kind of a giving you don't jump the line unless it's a situation like this. That's their only chance to win the game is to force a fumble there.
Right.
So why wouldn't you do it? And
last play of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
They're trying to win the game, and that's why they did it. And Bill Snyder was so shocked. If you look, the look on his face was total shock and then hurt. How about showing a little respect to a Hall of Fame coach who has won big time at a place where there's just no reason Kansas State should be winning the way it has. And Jim Mora Jr. didn't have a great reputation as Mr. Good Guy. Before that, now he's really got a bad reputation. Dumb move by Jim Mora Jr. As a matter of fact, I'd call it obnoxious.
Wow. But Tom, he protects his players. He said so on Twitter.
Isn't that what the line is for, to protect your players?
And no one even got hurt. Hundley didn't even get close to touched. It was harmless. That was really, really bizarre. Bad way to end the season for both teams. None of those guys should have to go through that.
No.
So I agree. Very obnoxious. I'm going to stick with football for my obnoxious pick, and I'm going to go with the officials, the referees, calling the Lions-Cowboys game. And before you say, geez, I'm not necessarily talking about bad calls. I think they probably did make a couple of calls that maybe cost Detroit or missed a couple of calls.
Pass interference?
Yeah, pass interference. They missed the holding. But that's part of football. That happens in every game. Calls are made that aren't right. Calls are overlooked that should be called. What bugs me and what's obnoxious here is that in the next 3 days, the NFL came out and announced, well, we should have called that. And, we did miss that. And what good does that do?
I'll tell you what good it does. It keeps refs accountable. You got to watch refs because that's
right. No, that's a good point.
That's who gamblers could get to. And I'm not saying the NFL's saying this was a gambling thing.
Yeah.
But you go into that job and if you screw up, the league's going to come out and out you. I love it.
Yeah, well, I understand it, but I still think it's obnoxious because it cost Detroit their season potentially. They could still be playing, and they're already sour enough about that. Maybe wait a week. Maybe wait 2 weeks. Maybe wait a month and then do it when the playoffs are over. You don't have to do it 2 days after the game when they're still fuming.
I bet you nobody made fun of Ndamukong Suh for crying at the press conference because who would make fun of him?
Right. Well,
how dumb would you have to be to make fun of Ndamukong Suh for weeping at the press conference?
I think you're just showing off that you can pronounce the name. You want to say Svi's name for us real quick?
Sviatoslav Mihailuk, despite
Nailed
the
it.
Mikhailuk.
Yeah.
No,
man.
Mihailuk.
What do you make of Svi right now? He's in a funk.
Well, he's 17, and they adjust to it, and you're not ready to adjust back. I think he's going to be great.
That'll work.
Probably not this year, but I think he's going to be a great basketball player.
Yeah.
And we'll learn more than anybody on that roster in the NBA.
That'd be great. His parents are coming from the Ukraine for Saturday's game against Texas Tech. So maybe he'll get a lift from that. I'm sure it'll be great for him to see him, especially because he is so young and so far away from home. So who knows? That's always been a lift for guys in the past. Maybe he goes for 40. And
it's a good game for them to come because he could play a lot.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
If he went for 40, that would be cool.
Wouldn't it be? How many three-pointers do you think would be in that 40?
Probably 9.
27? Okay, that's not bad. I was hoping you were going to say something like 16 and just missed the math completely. But, hey, it's a new year.
And pretty good at simple math. We start throwing trigonometry in there. No good.
Yeah, you'll never find that on KU Sports Extra this year or any other year. But thanks for checking out the first edition of the 2015 KU Sports Extra. And we'll see you guys throughout the week, throughout the next week, and all season covering KU basketball. Thanks for checking us out, and Happy New Year!